This is a juicy webinar with a lot of information in it and many, many links that I expect folks will want to track down. So we'll get started without further ado because we have just a half an hour together today. So I just want to welcome everyone. Again, say thank you for being here for the Master of Science in Design plus Innovation Application Assistance webinar. Wherever you're tuning in from the world, we appreciate you sharing the time. And if you're watching this later, maybe for a second or third time, or for the first time, welcome. We're thinking of you while we, share this information as well. So just to let you know what we're going to be doing over the next half hour, we'll introduce ourselves, of course. We'll be discussing the application requirements for our program, how to navigate the application portal online. We'll be spending a significant amount of time talking about the unique application requirement for our program, which is the creative brief. Then what you can expect after submission. And if we have a little bit of time at the end, we'll be happy to take some questions. That said, we do invite you to add questions into the chat at any time. It's helpful for us to know, what's on your mind and how we can help provide further information. I am Trudy Watt. I'm the academic director for MDI. My role in the program is to help set the program curriculum. I work directly with all of our students in advising throughout their entire experience here. So when you join us, I will be your academic advisor. I provide vision and direction for the program. So I think about how our program is situated in the wider world of design and innovation, how we tell our story. I also work with all students in career advising. So we understand we're an accelerated one-year master's program. So thinking about your next chapter from day one is really important. And that's a big part of my job as the academic director.
All right, and hello everyone. My name's Anna Denucci, and I'm the enrollment coach for this program. So my role here is to help students figure out if this is the right program and the right fit for you. And then I work with you to understand the eligibility pieces of, applying to the program, what the graduate school at UW is looking for. I'll help you navigate the application process, which we'll be doing a little bit of today, but I'm happy to do that more one-on-one and answer any of those kind of personal questions that you have about the program or its application. And then I'll also be talking about some best application practices. And again, all of the conversations and kind of things we'll go over today are also things I'd be happy to do in a more personal setting, whether it's on Zoom or just talking on the phone or even some instructions via email, whatever works best for you, as long as you feel like you're supported and you understand the process that we'll be going through. So with that, I do want to touch a little bit onto the application eligibility. So UW-Madison requires a minimum 3.0 GPA and for students who have completed a bachelor's degree in order for them to be eligible to apply to the program. If your GPA is a little bit lower or you have questions, especially our international students, about your degree, that's something that I would be happy to connect with you about. And then for our international students, we also may require an English proficiency test. We accept TOEFL and IELTS. We don't accept things like Duolingo. So please, if you're questioning whether you need a test or what test is accepted, feel free to reach out to me. You'll see the scores that are required for the accepted tests below. So on this slide, so TOEFL requires a 92 or above, and IELTS requires a 7.0 total band score or above. So they don't necessarily worry too much about the individual scores in IELTS, but the total score has to be a 7. And then with that, going on to the application requirements as a whole. So you'll apply for this program at grad.wisc.edu/apply. And I'll show you what that page looks like in a second here. But I do want to preface, we do not require a GRE. So you do not have to worry about taking that or including any scores you might have from that in this application. We do ask for unofficial transcripts. You'll need 2 letters of recommendation, a resume and CV, and then the creative brief that Trudy will talk a little bit more about in the near future. And with that, so I mentioned the grad.wisc.edu/apply page, this is what that page looks like. So you'll see and there's more steps after this on the page, but these first 3 steps are probably the most important as you begin your application. So in step 2, you'll be able to look personally at the admission requirements. You'll also be able to look, if you're an international student, at some of the requirements depending on your nationality, where you may or may not need English tests, but please, again, let me know if you have questions on that. So that link will be a good understanding and preview of what the UW graduate program as a whole asks for. And then we'll get into what we're specifically asking for this program in a little bit. But then step 3 is where you'll actually apply. So you'll click the apply button that's circled there. And once you click the applied button, you'll be asked to create a username and password in our application portal. Do not forget your username and password. Write it down. Make sure it's somewhere that you can find it and easily remember it. And then once you create that password, you'll also choose which school or which program you're looking to apply for. You can choose up to 3. You do not have to include more than 1 program if you do not want to. If there's multiple programs you're looking for, you can also include those there. But again, we'll be just talking about design and innovation today. And when you choose your program, you will have these steps to follow as you finish your application. So they'll ask for personal information, they'll ask for citizenship and some program selections. And those 3 tabs are ones that you'll have to finish before you can move on to the rest of the application. There's just some necessary information in there that they'll ask for. Once you get past those steps, you'll be able to kind of jump around depending on what pieces of the application you have ready and available. And so once you finish out those 3 options or those 3 tabs, you'll get to what we call the supplemental apps stage. So this tab for design and innovation is really important because it provides the instructions you'll need when you're submitting your creative brief. So right now on this screen, it shows what it'll look like when it's completed. And on this next screen that I'm going to show you, this is what will pop up when you are finishing out the supplemental application. So you'll have that little tab here that says Design and Innovation MS degree, and then it'll just say like start the supplemental application. You'll hit start, and then you'll get to this page, which is really a lot of instructions. So there's 2 things on here. One, the first half, the first top half of this is asking about the specialization you want to have in the design and innovation program. You can, if you have an idea of what you want to do specifically, we have 4 focus areas. If you're interested in UI UX design and maybe like design strategy, you can put those 2 things. If you don't quite know what you're interested in, don't worry too much about it. This can always be changed once you talk with Trudy and talk with the program a little bit more and figure out what direction you want to go. It's not something that has to be like sticking point there. The second piece of this is really important, and this is where you're going to learn about how the creative brief works and where you're going to upload it. So the application tab marked statement asks that you upload your creative brief there. And that means that it'll be one document that includes your statement of purpose, your design prompt, and a portfolio of work. Again, Trudy will talk about this a little bit more, but make sure you read this section just so that you have a good idea of what the program is asking for within the creative brief, and to remind yourself about where to put that information. And moving on from there, so this is again that tab, past education piece, where you will be able to put your statement as well as the design prompt and creative brief, again, all in one document, and you'll upload it underneath the statement tab, and then you'll put your resume or your CV in the one below that. And then this is probably one of the more complex pieces. So letters of recommendation, people get really nervous about asking for letters of recommendation, right? So what you need for a letter of recommendation when you're filling out the application is just the contact information of your recommender. You don't actually need them to send you the letter and you submit it. They're going to submit it all on their own. And I'll show you how this works in just a second. So once you have talked to 2 recommenders who you feel will be positive reviewers of who you are and will provide good information to the program about your skills and your characteristics and that sort of thing, you will go ahead, get their contact information, and you're going to click add. And once you click add, this page will pop up here. And so you'll be, again, you just need the recommenders' preferred first name, last name, their title, potentially what company or institution they work for, and then an email address that is best for them to be contacted by, as well as a phone number. And then if you want to write anything to your recommender, you can do that in the bottom piece. So if it's, for instance, providing the link to the program website or just saying thank you for agreeing to be my recommender, you'll go ahead and do that. And then once you fill out that information, you will just hit submit and send. And the recommenders will then get an email from the admissions@grad@wisc.edu as seen on the slide. And that email will have a link for them to upload the letter. So the piece about this that's important is that you can fill out this information and have your recommenders still writing their letters and everything. You can still apply for the program and finish your application before they actually send in their letters. Your review of the application, of your application, won't necessarily happen right away until the letters are received. But if you just want to get the application done, if you have everything ready and it's nearing the deadline of February 1st, feel free to just go ahead and submit. We know that the only thing you're looking for then is your letters of recommendation. And that's where you can also provide some encouragement to your recommenders by sending them reminders or some other things through the application portal. Just some quick best practices for letters of recommendation. Make sure you ask before just sending this email. You want to make sure that your recommenders are prepared and about to and are able to provide you a positive review. Also, really focus on recommenders that have a really good relationship with you versus title, especially just with the philosophy of this program being very human-centered and relationship-centered. We'd rather have maybe an old supervisor that you still have a really strong relationship with than a faculty member that you kind of know but don't quite know, or maybe a director of a department or something that you don't have as good of a relationship with. So definitely think about who can give you the best recommendation and who you are closest with in positive ways, and make sure that it is someone that has had some sort of mentorship, advisor, supervisor relationship to you. And then you'll want to also provide them materials. So again, information about the program, maybe your resume, talking points, just so that they have something to go off of as they're finishing writing your letter. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Trudy.
Thanks, Anna. I think that's a great point about, emphasizing relationships in your requests for letters of recommendation. And it was a great connection to the human-centered principle of our program. So for the second half of our presentation, I will be talking about the creative brief, which has 3 elements: the statement of purpose, the design prompt, and your portfolio of work. The statement of purpose and design prompt are written prompts, so up to 500 words each. And the portfolio of work is a visual documentation telling us a story about where you are at as a creative person and as an emerging designer and a future designer. The statement of purpose is a 250 to 500 word essay on your why. So really take the word purpose seriously. What is your why? Why are you applying to this graduate program? What is driving you? What is it about this program in particular that is going to support what you want to achieve in your career as a designer? How do you think you might achieve those goals here? And simply, what's motivating you? What gets you out of bed in the morning? What jazzes you? What excites you about your future career and its entanglement with design? But most of all, I want to encourage everyone to just be yourself. We want to know the whole you, the real you. All parts of your experience are important to us. We are a really broad program in design, and I think hearing your full story is something that's really important to us. So I just really want to encourage you, again, to be yourself You don't have to pretend like you're already a design expert. Some of you may have a design background, and that's wonderful. But we want to know who you are as human beings. That's how we think about building our cohort. The design prompt is the second sort of written prompt. This is also a 250 to 500 word essay. This is more on your what. So if this statement of purpose is your why, the design prompt is your what. And the prompt is, if you were to redesign anything, literally anything, what would it be and how would you get started? Would it be a toy? Would it be a program? Would it be a building? Would it be a way of thinking? Would it be an event? Would it be a digital interface? Would it be a website? So we are really agnostic in terms of the output or the outcome that you might be describing, so to speak. We want to know more about why designing that thing is your biggest, boldest dream. So go big. Tell us what you are, what is your ideal? And how does design fit into that? How will design and advancing your practice as a designer help you accomplish that? Another great way to think about this is, what impact do you want to have for the people around you, for the creatures around you, on the planet? And most of all, show us how you think broadly and creatively across disciplines. So where are you making connections? Where are you, tell us a story about a time that you had an insight that others noticed. So that broad, creative systems thinking across disciplines is something that we're looking for. Finally, the portfolio, which is the visual component of the creative brief, consists of 2 to 3 projects or even categories of projects. It's 10 pages long with a 4 megabyte maximum file size. And as Anna mentioned earlier in the presentation, the creative brief, which includes both the writing prompts and the portfolio, are uploaded to that supplemental application portal as a single PDF file. So you're going to be creating these 2 written pieces and 1 visual piece, and they all get submitted as 1 PDF. Let's just talk briefly about what a portfolio is. Some of you may know, some of you may have never encountered this before, but a portfolio is a sequential document like a book or a magazine that tells the story of a designer's work. A portfolio is the most important document for a designer professionally. We use portfolios as well as resumes and cover letters in basically every kind of application that we do as a designer, whether that's to a school or a competition or a job. And a key question, I saw some questions about this popping up in the chat. What should you include in the portfolio? I'll say again, we want to know the whole you. We want to know who you are and who you're becoming. What does your future look like? And tell us that story through coursework or projects. They could be design projects or not. Professional work, those could have been creative projects, reports, initiatives you are a part of. Do include group work. One of the core principles of our program is collaborative work. So do include group work and just let us know what you did. Credit your teammates, credit your colleagues, and claim credit for the part of the collaborative work that you led. You might also include independent projects like competitions or things you're simply curious about, or artwork, other creative practice. We've had some very interesting submissions from musicians. So this is a slide just to show you, when I think about other creative practice, are you a dancer? Are you a photographer? Do you paint? Do you sketch? Are you a community organizer? Do you do makeup? Do you do performance? Do you play an instrument? Were you a tattoo artist in a former life? So we're really interested in all of that creative practice. Were you a woodworker at any point in your life? We want to see creative work not only clearly within the realm of design that you're headed in, but in that sort of holistic picture of who you are as a creative practitioner. I'm going to get into a little bit of technical information about how to make a portfolio from a design perspective. So this section of the presentation has got some technical tips and tricks about how you actually build this document. So first and foremost, make your portfolio in software that allows you to lay out both images and text in visual spreads like a book or a slide deck. We've listed just 3 possibilities here. 2 are free and 1 requires a subscription. Canva and Miro are both free visual layout tools. Adobe InDesign is the industry standard, but does require a subscription. But make your portfolio in that software that allows you to work with both text and images. And when it comes to sort of the basics of portfolio design, we're just going to keep it really clear with a few tips here. Number one, organization is key. Keep your page layouts very simple and use just a few layout types. You can see from the examples on the right, which are from the Vignelli Canon, a book that is available as a PDF online, which is about the design of sequential documents like portfolios. You can see that there is actually kind of one layout type here with 3 variations. On the top, we can see sort of text on the left with a title and a full bleed image on the right. Variation number 2 has the same title and text, and then a thumbnail gallery of images on the right. And finally, the third example shows, again, the text and title are in the exact same place on every page, so that predictability leads to legibility. But then we also have some free-floating images on both the left and right. Be very judicious with embellishment. You don't want to distract us from your work with the design of your portfolio. So keep it really simple so that we can focus on your critical creative thinking. And think about the narrative arc of your portfolio. So how does the sequence of projects or categories that you're showing us tell a story about who you are? This is just to enlarge those images just a little bit and to say a little bit more about how organization contributes to legibility. So again, I just want to point out that some of the things that are organized about these spreads that makes them exceptionally legible is that the style and location of the copy, the titles, the body copy are consistent from page to page. The image size is very consistent from page to page as you look throughout this book, which you can see a link to at the bottom right-hand corner of this slide. The image size is really consistent, as well as the image location. Finally, the designers of this document, the Vignelli Canon, are using a grid, which you can see actually drawn in on the lower right-hand image here. So a grid is a way of setting yourself up some guidelines and rules for where text and images are allowed to go on a page that will help increase legibility of information. Another tip is around implementing a visual hierarchy. So I would be curious to know just on first glance where everyone looked as soon as this slide popped up. Guessing it might have gone either to the red arrow at the lower right-hand side or to the red title, Portfolio Design 101. That's because we're using a consistent visual hierarchy in the design of this slide deck. You can choreograph a person's attention, guiding them to where you want their eyes to go first. So be conscious of implementing a visual hierarchy. Use clear and consistent typefaces with a title, subtitle, title, and body style text that's consistent throughout the document. On the right-hand side here, you can see some notes about the title, subheader, and body style choices that we're using in this slide presentation to make sure that the information is communicable to you. Be aware that bright, bold, and dark colors will attract attention first, and so will anytime you use words or arrows. Human beings just love looking at words and arrows. So be very, very careful about the use of those. So to summarize, be consistent. Make it yourself a set of rules and then follow them throughout your portfolio. Establish a limited number of layout types and use them throughout. Decide where text and images can appear on the page and use that throughout. Establish a simple typeface hierarchy and follow it throughout the document. Be very judicious with embellishment or decoration. Ensure that any words that you include in the portfolio are readable, and use bright, bold, and dark elements very cautiously because they will grab our attention. And just to show you an example, this is a portfolio that was designed by one of our current MDI students, Sarah Cryer. And so she gave her consent for me to share a few pages from her portfolio here. You can see as we flip through that she is using a really consistent layout, typographic hierarchy, and so on. She's including both text and images of work that she did as a photographer. Here, this is a collage and a fictional story that she created. Here we have some more sort of photo compositing and mapping. She includes these gray boxes in the lower right-hand side, for example, to almost like a textbook call out to let me know like what's going on with this project. So she's showing me her project work in images and text. Wearing your heart on your boots is the name of the project. But then she tells me a little bit about the prompt that gave rise to these projects. She also includes, I can tell you that Sarah is a design strategy specialist within our program. And so she's done a lot of work in the Wisconsin School of Business, which you might not think is the place that produces the most visual information. But here, Sarah was collaborating with a graphic designer and they created a report together. So she's telling us about the report on the right-hand side, and then she's showing us the report on the left-hand side, almost like they're sheets of paper laying on a table. So she's taken a project that isn't particularly, one might not think of it as being particularly striking from a visual perspective, and woven that into our portfolio in a very visual, engaging way. Sarah also included a section on the photography that she does. So that's going back to that, point about really showing us your whole self. This photography perhaps isn't directly related to her work in the corporate world or in the design studio, but shows us that she has an additional creative visualization and thinking capacity that she expresses and explores through photography. Finally, there are a few great resources that are available to you, actually, even before you're a student here. These are available through the UW-Madison Design Lab, which has a bunch of resources, but we've curated a set of 4 that are accessible to you now and will be especially helpful in creating your portfolio. So developing professional documents, design tips and tricks. So for further information about these, the visual communication that is helpful in portfolio design, as well as image and font databases if you're looking for some ideas about how to use typography, or even some stock images that can help bolster the work that you're including in your portfolio. And I'll hand it back to Anna to talk about what happens after you submit your application.
Great, thanks, Trudy. Yeah, so after submission, the graduate school, there will be some discussion between the graduate school and the program. They're 2 kind of separate entities on campus. So again, those eligibility requirements come from the graduate school. The program adheres to them, and then the program will be looking at a lot of your materials. So the program is the one that will decide based on your creative brief, your transcripts, all of the pieces that are in the application, if they are interested and think that you would be a good candidate and a good fit. And once that decision is made, the grad school will then be notified, and if there's any last things that might be needed, such as official transcripts being sent or other final documentation pieces, that'll be talked through and discussed. If for some reason, this comes up quite a bit, so I do want to put this out here, if for some reason there are any issues getting into your application portal, either before you finish or after you finish, because you can still go into the portal and kind of see where your review or your admission review is at. Please reach out to the email that's on the screen. And again, you'll get these slides, so you'll be able to connect with them there. Just because the grad portal is very specific to the grad school, so they will have a little bit more information on how to either reset or upload things or refigure out some passwords and usernames if needed. So just make sure you have as much information as you need for them, but then reach out to them as soon as possible. If you have program questions or again questions on the application timeline or materials needed or want feedback or anything like that, feel free to contact me. And this is, again, some of my information. You can also use the link, so phone numbers, and the phone and text number is also good for WhatsApp as well. And then my email, and you can also sign up for an appointment for either Zoom or phone call using the link that's at the bottom there. So that's just a little bit more of my information, again, if you have questions. But otherwise, thank you so much for your time, for those both here live and tuning in maybe a little bit later. And with that, Trudy, do you have any last things to say?
Well, I just want to say that I realize that we're at 12:30. So I want to just let everyone know it's completely okay to leave. I think there's a couple of questions that would be great to just touch on really briefly in the chat that are super relevant to the portfolio conversation. So I just want to answer them live if we could, just in a minute or two. And then for the questions that we won't answer live here, I do want to encourage you to take advantage of meeting with Anna. I did put the Calendly link into the chat. So there are a bunch of great questions in the chat, but a couple that I think are just very relevant to the conversation. They're all worth answering, but very relevant to the conversation of this webinar. So I just wanted to address the question of what kind of projects. They're sort of orbiting the questions of what kind of projects are eligible for the creative brief, what should be included, what's it necessary for me to include, and like how should I go about this? So hopefully we're able to expand on that a little bit in the webinar here itself. But I do just want to say, we're looking for that breadth of creative practice. So all of what you would frame as creative work is eligible to be included in the portfolio. It is about you telling a story about who you are as a designer, regardless of what specialization you might be interested in. We do see things like wireframes, sketches for apps and interfaces and things like that, say for folks that are particularly interested in UI UX. But I just want to emphasize that you're not admitted into the program through a specialization. You're admitted to the program, the Design and Innovation program, and then we work together on developing a course sequence that allows you to meet the goals of the specialization that you choose. So we are not admitting into specializations or looking for a different set of requirements for those specializations. We're really looking for that holistic creative expression of who you are becoming as a designer. And then we work on your specialization sort of through advising once you're in the program. So I just wanted to be sure that that was included here for everyone who's present and also those who are watching this as a recording later. So thank you for allowing me to take an extra 2 minutes to address that question.
Great. And I think most of the rest of these questions, I know there was one in here about the RA, TA, assistantship opportunities. Right now, Design and Innovation does not offer those opportunities. There are some other scholarship options and other things that I can provide, just case by case and student by student, since it does differentiate a little bit depending on if you're domestic or an international applicant. So that's something that I'd be happy to kind of talk about if you want to go ahead and sign up for an appointment on the Calendly link, or just email me some direct questions. But otherwise, I'm not sure. I think Trudy answered quite a few of the other ones with just the PowerPoint and our latest discussion. But if there's anything else you're seeing, Trudy, let me know.
Yeah, I think just to be respectful of everyone's time, we'll wrap it up. But please be in touch with us. We're here to answer your questions, and I really appreciate you being with us today. So thanks everyone, and wishing you a very happy rest of your day, whatever time it is where you are. So we'll see you next time.
Thank you all.